Brianna Jackson, previously Brianna Jackfruitson, is no longer vegan. If you didn't know, you can probably guess from her name that she used to eat a lot of fruit. She used to follow kind of a low-fat, high-fruit, raw vegan diet, fruitarian diet, similar to what I ate, 80-10-10 style thing. She learned about it from Freelee. Eventually, she started eating cooked food, raw till 4 type stuff. So, not getting a lot of protein, not getting a lot of fat. And then before she stopped being vegan, she finally did start eating more, beans and avocado and getting a lot more protein and a lot more fat. But she's no longer vegan and apparently hasn't been for some time because she was having digestion issues from eating, a lot of fiber. And apparently she's soy intolerant as well. I've talked about these issues before, numerous times at this point, a lot of different videos, because it is a common thread in these, ex-vegan videos, some people having these digestive issues with fiber. I've talked about how to mitigate that, mock meats, also kind of finding out your sort of trigger foods, because for some people it's kind of insoluble fiber, for other people it's soluble fiber, for some it's just fiber in general, but that can be helpful too. It's hard on a vegan diet because everything we eat has fiber, right? And everything has insoluble and soluble, right? But there are some that have more insoluble, more soluble, right? So playing around with that could possibly help too. I've talked about food intolerances as well, and how that can make it really hard, even impossible for some people to stay vegan and be healthy. Certainly having a soy intolerance would make it pretty difficult, not impossible, but pretty hard. There are a lot of mock meats now that don't have soy, like Beyond Meat. I think all of their products now are pea protein. But yeah, it would be rough. I eat a lot of soy. It'd be rough. So I don't want to go over all of that in detail again. I'll link to videos in the description. And also, I think Brianna's case is different, just given how, well, number one, her anorexia background, but also, again, how young she was when she started all of this, how young she was when she started listening to Freelee. She didn't have a period for 10 years. When I and so many others talk about Freelee being dangerous, this is what we're talking about. A child with a history of anorexia was following her advice, was eating almost nothing but fruit, was obviously still very thin and unhealthy, was using the diet as a way to continue to restrict.
I think I typed in something like weight loss diet or something to do with weight loss on YouTube, on the verge of death, still trying to lose weight. And that's when Freelee popped up, and that's how I found out about her. At the time, being in my eating disordered mind, all I saw was her body. I just saw how lean she was, how skinny she was, and she flaunted that. She's always kind of flaunted what a low body fat percentage that she had. And I was already vegan at the time. I didn't break my veganism even when I was in my eating disorder, so for me it seemed perfect. I thought, oh wow, I can just eat fruit all day and I can stay skinny. Raw veganism was probably the worst choice that I could have ever made at that point, but I think that just goes to show how mentally sick that I still was, and I was kind of using raw veganism to fuel my eating disorder still, in a way. All I saw was this woman telling me that I could still be skinny, but then I could eat as much as I wanted, just eat all the fruit I wanted, and it was fine because fruit is what humans are meant to eat and it's what we're designed to eat anyway. And again, being as mentally sick as I was, I completely bought into that.
It's hard to see these new videos and her posts on Instagram. It's hard not to see that as a success, honestly, even though she's not vegan anymore. Yeah, she's eating a lot of animal products to, gain weight and get stronger because she's into lifting and stuff now. And, no, it's not necessary to be super, super strong, but obviously she is so much healthier. She got her period back. I know it's weird to talk about this stuff, but look, if you've been in the raw world, this is something we talk about because all of us lose our period. And unfortunately, there's a large number of educators within the raw vegan world who think that, oh, actually, that's fine. Freelee, fully raw Christina, it's fine. It's just detox. Your body's healing. Yeah, no, please continue telling that to literal children. No, that's awesome. Obviously, I wish Brianna could have made these changes in a vegan way, moving to, more mock meats and eating less fiber and less starch. Her last vegan what I ate today is still very, fiber heavy. It's all whole foods pretty much. I think maybe there's a little bit of protein powder, but it's a lot of fruit, a lot of potatoes. I'm glad she's better, and it's frustrating to see some responses from people who were just really hateful to try to justify it. Like maybe they don't know her background. Maybe they don't know all of the... There's no justification for it. Like stop being an ass, man. Like especially listening to that call that she shares where she's crying about how tired she is and how much like pain she's in terms of her digestion and everything. This is from a couple years ago before she quit being vegan. Like, I don't understand how you can listen to that and not have sympathy and still be an asshole. Like, what? I don't know, man. Wow. You suck. You really suck. Now, unfortunately, the problems that Brianna had on her vegan diet are not the only similarities that her video shares with other ex-vegan videos. So I don't care about the Nikocado stuff, their friendship, anything like that. I honestly don't know anything about it. That's not why I want to talk about this. I want to comment on the video that she made a few years ago when Nick was, first he was questioning veganism and then he was like, I'm no longer vegan, right? And she made a response to it. I made a response to her response because it was really horrible. I think I called it like how not to respond to ex-vegans or to vegan questions, something like that. A lot of her information was just wrong, saying things like we can't digest meat, that sort of like kind of raw food reasoning, right? They talk about that a lot. And also we can't digest cooked food, that sort of stuff.
And because it takes us longer to digest foods in general, if we eat meat, it actually can begin to rot in our intestinal tract, which increases our risk of colon cancers.
And her attitude, I think, which a lot of people commented on, she even starts the video like, all right, let's do this.
I cannot believe that I am about to make this video.
Like she's really enjoying, him struggling and like crying throughout his video, whether you find that believable or not. It was really weird to see that was her response. Well, now I know, given her new videos, what she said, that she apparently like hated him at the time. I guess that's when their whole relationship started to fall apart. So I guess she really was enjoying it, right? But yeah, obviously it's not a great look for a video. It doesn't seem like she's trying to educate or help. It seems like she's just trying to be right, and she's not. That's the worst part, is that almost everything she says is wrong. She does say that she doesn't hate him now, but she still won't apologize to him. Again, whatever, I don't care. But I care that she won't apologize about this video in general either. And this is not a private thing. This is public, and it's still public. She still has it up on her channel. She still has it monetized. It's horrible. Like this, it sends such a horrible message. Again, it's not compassionate, the video. It's full of false information. She should care about that. Nothing to do with Nick. Pretend that she was responding to someone else. The fact that it's public and that it is being seen by other people and she is sharing that information with other people, like, she should care about that. Instead, she defends it by saying that, well, it was 3 years ago.
Yes, in that video, I was kind of insinuating that everyone could be vegan healthfully, I was, kind of aggressive in my approach, and again, naive to think that everyone can just be vegan very easily. Yes, that was wrong. Yes, of course, I don't agree with that anymore, but it was 3 years ago and I spent a lot of time off YouTube, and in that time I did a lot of self-reflection. I went through a lot of my own struggles, and that's why I changed my mind so drastically. And of course now I don't agree that veganism can work for everyone, but that's not being a hypocrite. That's called going through new life experiences, growing as a person, realizing you were wrong, and then making a different decision that's healthier for you.
I've talked about it ad nauseum at this point, and I will continue to, whether we like it or not as YouTubers, Instagram, influencers, we influence people. Maybe that's why we're called influencers. I don't know. We play a role in people's decisions. I mean, again, Brianna adopted the 30 banana a day raw till 4 thing because of Freelee, because of an influencer. She should apologize to her viewers for spreading misinformation, for being so self-righteous, especially given that she's no longer vegan. She is on the other side of this now. She knows how bad that video is. Instead, she still has it up. She's still making money off of it. I'm sure not very much, but some, just like Raw Vana, just like Raw Alignment, just like most of these ex-vegans. It makes it really hard to take anything that they say seriously or to believe that they are sincere when they seem to care so little about the information that they put out into the world, about the effect that they can have on other people. I mean, maybe it's just because we don't see you guys. Like, I have 250,000 subscribers. Like, I don't even, what does that even mean? I don't know what that number is. Like, what is that? What? Like, I'm not seeing you guys. I'm not, even if you say like, hey, I went vegan because of you, I guess it's hard to really see the significance of that, but we need to. And I know people get mad, like, you're not responsible for other people's decisions. Yes, everyone makes their own decision, but to say that Freelee played no role whatsoever in Brianna's decision to eat almost exclusively fruit and to essentially continue to be sick and to get even sicker, it's possible that she never would have learned about the diet if it weren't for Freelee. Anyway, it's not just the Nikocado video. There are other ones as well. This one is this like morning routine where her breakfast is bananas, blueberries, and strawberries. That's it. She also still links to these ebooks in the description of the older videos. The links are active, so it seems like you can still buy them. I didn't actually try it and put in my credit card information. That could just be that she forgot. I doubt she gets many sales, if any, on those. So maybe she just forgot that they're up. So yeah, maybe somebody tell her that those are up and that maybe she should take them down, because I don't think she agrees with that information anymore. Taking down bad content, it's a good thing, and it doesn't make you like less of a person. This is something that I guess I didn't quite understand, but that's how a lot of people see it. It's not just about like being embarrassed. It's also like, I don't know, you feel like if you admit to that, well, you suck, I guess, or you're not smart. I still don't quite understand it, but apparently that's how people feel. They feel like it means they're kind of a bad person, that they've like made mistakes like that, I guess. And no, like it's amazing when people admit that they're wrong. One of my favorite things on Twitter, I'm off of Twitter for now, by the way, but one of the things I really love is when something gets boosted, a tweet, because it's just someone saying that they're wrong, like a researcher retracting a paper or something. That's amazing. And then of course the responses are just amazing. Everyone's saying, oh my god, we appreciate your intellectual honesty, this is so awesome. I mean, trust me, I've done it a lot. Like, it feels amazing when you do it. It really is like a weight being lifted off of your shoulders. She talks about growth and change in, I think, her most recent video, and I don't think you can truly do that until you admit to bad mistakes, until you really be accountable for that and apologize. I think she knows on some level, because she gets very defensive in the video when she talks about it. When she says the whole, well, it's been 3 years, she seems rather arrogant and defensive. And sometimes that can be a sign of like, you're kind of mad at yourself. Now, she does say in that recent video essentially that she likes keeping the old videos up because it kind of, shows her journey, right? So people can go back and see like just how far she's come.
I want you to take me as an example, to look at my YouTube channel and be like, wow, she really changed all of that.
I get that. I used to do that too. That's why I kept my videos up for a long time, even the really, really old ones, because I was like, hey, you can see like how different I am. But that's no excuse for monetizing them, right? And really, I don't think it's an excuse for keeping them up either. I mean, why not do just like a compilation thing where you've got like clips from various videos to really show? I mean, that's a really good succinct way to do it. And you can even add commentary to it. That seems like a much more useful educational way to show someone's kind of journey. She kind of does that in the recent video. At the very beginning, she shows a before and after. But obviously, change. I don't think she's just talking about how she looks or like anorexia to bodybuilding, I guess. Which apparently isn't that uncommon. I've seen at least one other case of like anorexia to bodybuilding. And interestingly, I found this study where they compared women with anorexia to male competitive bodybuilders, and they found similarities in terms of psychological traits. They did find that bodybuilders had like higher self-worth than anorexic patients. Very positive perceptions of their self-worth versus very negative ones. That's not proof of anything, but it's interesting. And I wanted to bring it up because I kind of wanted to talk about, as a former bulimic, I think it can be kind of easy to recover without truly recovering, at least in terms of, the psychological traits or those mental hangups that led to the disorder. No longer purging and binging, but eating massive quantities of fruits and vegetables, right? I mean, I think there's a reason that some of us were really, really drawn to 30 bananas a day was what it was when I did it, when they still thought cooked food was evil, right? But even raw till 4, like eating these massive quantities of food, or from an anorexic perspective, still being able to restrict and cut out like almost all foods, right? But be like, no, look how much I'm eating, right? Like I'm fine, I'm cured, look how much food I'm eating. No longer doing excessive amounts of cardio, but now spending like hours in the gym lifting. I'm not saying that's what's going on with Brianna, just that it happens. And also I'm not like equating the two, like anorexia and bodybuilding are the same thing. Like, no, obviously making yourself throw up or starving yourself is a lot worse than like being obsessed with exercise. But it's not great. And again, I'm not saying that this is Brianna. It's just something I wanted to talk about just from my own experience and, having read from other people and having seen some other people with other addictions kind of get into the fitness realm. It's sad. There's a difference between exercising for health and exercising for the sake of exercise. Again, from experience, it's a sad way to live, to be so focused on something that ultimately doesn't matter. I'm not saying exercise doesn't matter, but that we don't need that much of it. The amount that you need for health, it's really not that much. Some walking, maybe a little bit more vigorous than that, and then a little bit of strength training, particularly as you age, to protect bones and to prevent muscle loss. Stretching, there's really no like evidence for it, but if it feels good to you, or if you've been instructed to like buy a PT because you have some sort of injury or something. And then after that, we have diminishing returns, right? And an increased risk of injury depending on what you're doing. Obviously, lifting heavy weights, not without its risks. Some are particularly concerned for women going really, really heavy on moves like squats, the potential impact that it can have on our pelvic floor. I don't know if there's actually any sort of evidence for that at all. I really have no idea. So, future video, maybe? Getting super strong is not necessary for health, and it's not a moral issue either. Like, yes, we should feel some amount of pride because it does take a lot of dedication and pain even, right, to really grow muscles and get stronger, especially in Brianna's case, someone who is dealing with like mental health and eating disorder on top of it. But it doesn't mean that, someone who's grown a butt is better than someone who isn't, right? I mean, obviously. I don't know. Watching her recent video, I do kind of get the sense that she still puts a lot of stock into appearance, I guess, and maybe how she feels about herself is still really wrapped up in appearance. Though, now it's not about being super thin, it's about being really muscular. It's about the gains. Maybe that's just me being overly sensitive because, I've had an eating disorder, obviously not anorexia, but maybe it makes me more sensitive to stuff like that. I don't know. Anyway, this is coming from someone who works out way more than I need to. It's weird. Over the last few months, I've gotten back into working out like an hour a day, sometimes a little bit more than that, 6 days a week. And even on the 7th day, I often do like stretching, which is, there's no evidence for it, but it feels good. And sometimes, it really does make my back feel better for 5 minutes. I mean, I've seen no change in how I look. My body's exactly the same. My weight and everything. I guess I should talk about the unintentional weight loss. Well, save it for the end of the video, so stay tuned. I don't feel any better. I don't feel any different. If anything, I feel worse because I'm pretty much in pain all the time. I have DOMS pretty much all the time. So, yeah. But it's different, right? DOMS is different. It's not the same. That's what we tell ourselves. I just enjoy doing it, and I don't really understand it because I'm complaining and cussing the whole time because it's hard to lift heavy things and jumping around is hard, but then I'm but I'm still doing it. I don't feel any better about myself than when I was not working out or doing 20-minute workouts or whatever. If anything, maybe there I feel kind of worse too, because that's time I could be spent doing other things. I mean, I'd be sleeping, which I need. Shut up, you. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is all just projection and I'm just feeling bad for spending too much time working out. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Subscribe, support the channel, patreon.com/unnaturalvegan. And I will have a new video hopefully soon. I don't know what I'm doing next. There's that horrible article in the BBC about vegans and intelligence that I read through. And they were like, B6, you'd have to eat this many potatoes. I was like, oh, okay, that's who. This is going to be a high quality article. They seem to get a lot of it from this review from this philosopher from a year or two ago. I looked up the guy. His name is Nathan something. And I kept seeing this he's did the paper on race and IQ. And I was like, oh, this must be a different guy. No, it's the same guy. Now, I'm not saying that means that his paper is necessarily bad. I just think that that's interesting, that that's what you would choose to reference. I don't know. If I were trying to make a strong case against veganism or hey, maybe you should consider that it might have, I don't know, negative effects on your brain or something, I don't think I would be citing a paper, number one, on health from a philosopher, but number two, a pretty controversial figure, Oh, and the responses that I've read to the article have not been good. There was one in Plant-Based News and one in some other one. They basically didn't go over the ones that are worth talking about. Taurine, creatine, I think, maybe a couple other things. They either didn't talk about them at all or were just really dismissive. If you're not going to take the time, if you're just going to be dismissive, then don't respond. It's not helpful. Unless they say something obviously the earth is flat. Yeah, okay, fine, be dismissive. But when they say something that, hey, that might actually be an issue or is worth talking about, then maybe talk about it. And if you don't talk about it, it seems like there's a reason for that. If you can't answer that and you think that taurine might be an issue, then why are you even vegan? What are you doing? Oh, so the unintentional weight loss. I think I figured it out. Popcorn! We stopped eating popcorn. I've shown the bowl that we eat out of when we eat popcorn. It's a huge metal bowl, and partner can't make popcorn without just filling the entire bowl. So it is a lot. And we put Miyogos on it, and I'm pretty sure we stopped eating it regularly around the time that I mysteriously started losing weight. I think that's all it was. Mystery salt. So stupid. There was a comment on that video. Someone was upset that I talked about weight loss, and they said that I shouldn't do that because I can't remember exactly how they worded it, but that it, I guess, can be, triggering to people who don't want to hear about weight loss or have had an eating disorder, something like that. And, I'm sensitive to stuff like that, but I literally put unintentional weight loss in the title. I try to do that whenever I talk about weight loss, or particularly eating disorders or depression or anything like that. I really try to put it in the title, so if you don't like that, not to watch it. But this person was just you shouldn't talk about it which I think is kind of no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna talk about some things. I don't know, I think that's a pretty extreme thing, and I don't think most people hold that view. I think most people are just hey, can you just let us know so we don't, because I don't really want to, yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with doing something like that. Someone, I put a little flash of an image in a video from a little while ago. It was funny because a lot of people were confused. It was a really brief, just a frame of ContraPoints because I said mouthfeel. I thought that was kind of funny. And apparently it might have triggered someone's epilepsy or made them have a seizure or something. So they sent me this really sweet email just asking if I could put a little content warning or whatever, and they were just really, don't worry about it, I'm not saying it did for sure. They were so nice, and they didn't even have to be that nice, but yeah, I put a little thing at the top of the description. My point is that I think most people are like that, hey, can you just give us a little heads up, and not don't ever talk about this ever. Wait, what? There are some people who want to hear about triggering quote unquote stuff, right? Especially, if we're talking about eating disorders, some people, it can be really useful to hear about other people's struggles. So you can be oh, you did that too? Okay. I'm not just totally crazy and weird. No, a lot of people have this experience. Okay. That can actually be really comforting and make you feel less alone. I don't know where I'm going with this. It just really struck me, obviously. I read it a week or so ago, and it really stuck with me. Wow. No. I guess I bring it up too because I've seen a lot of people saying, not to even talk about not so much weight loss, but that too, and just dieting and eating disorders and stuff like that. And number one, everything's an eating disorder now. Intermittent fasting is an eating disorder. What? I'm sure it can be used by people with eating disorders or even triggers something in someone that's susceptible, but the idea that just everyone who practices that and has some success with it, maybe they're able to lose weight, well, you have an eating disorder. Come on, no. Now, if someone's doing the 1 meal a day thing, that's, good argument there. If not an eating disorder, just don't do that. That's stupid. I guess it can just feel like everyone's on the extremes sometimes, right? Which is obviously not true. And so talking about it like this, just, I guess I can talk through it to a camera instead of just by myself. Well, I feel less crazy if I'm talking to a camera instead of just by myself in the shower or something. Point is, I'm gonna keep talking about weight from time to time, and I'll try to put it somewhere so you know what's gonna happen if you don't want to watch it. You'll know. So you can avoid it, right? That's totally fine. Yeah, obviously this isn't a anti-dieting sort of channel. It's not really pro-dieting, I guess. Diets don't work for a lot of people, most people, but you know what I mean. You saw the last video. If you saw it, then yeah, obviously I'm not anti-dieting or anything. Speaking of the last video, something that I didn't include, and I wish I had because I've seen so many of you comment on it, even including some dietitians, intuitive eating seems to be something that's more for eating disorders. I did put some little text in the video saying that the whole restriction thing makes sense for, not restricting makes sense for someone who is recovering from an eating disorder. But it's interesting reading the book, even though it's written for just people who are dieting and have, not had success with dieting. A lot of the examples are examples of like an eating disorder, writing about people who are binging regularly. That's an eating disorder. That is not the normal response to dieting. Do you see what I mean? I cut this out because the video is already so long, and I just thought, well, what's really the point of this? But so many of you have said it. It's like, okay, that's what it seems like to me. And reading the book, it really seems like a lot of the examples are like, well, that's a little bit more than just, oh, I'm trying to diet. Oh, I ate too many calories this day. Shoot, like this is really hard to follow diet. Like it's quite a bit different than that. You know what I mean? Or like feeling kind of bad because you didn't stick to the diet versus like actually binging. They don't have any examples of like people purging or stuff like that, but a lot of like binge eating. And yeah, it just really came across to me like that's a straight up eating disorder. And I got really emotional reading the book because it was like, yep, that was me. Yep. It's interesting too, because in the second edition of the book, they have like a very kind of definitive, like, this is not for eating disorders, or kind of the process for people with an eating disorder is very different, which makes sense, right? If you're a binge eater, telling you to pay attention to hunger and fullness cues, really, really, really hard. You've been stretching your stomach. If you've been doing this for long enough, you've been stretching your stomach so much, it is impossible to tell what fullness is. I've talked about that before with myself. Like it can take a long time to be able to just eat normally without feeling like, man, I'm still like, I don't feel full yet, And then with anorexia, it's kind of the opposite. I remember I either read or watched a video of someone saying that they could eat, it was like one bite of something, and they were like, I can feel it in my stomach, and it's like, I'm full. Now, obviously they can't, not really like feeling it, but to them they could. And it was like, that's it. I don't need any more food. So obviously telling someone like that, hey, listen to your hunger and fullness cues, they're still going to be anorexic, and a binge eater, yeah, probably still going to be binge eating. My point is that, so they used to say that in the second, they removed that statement from the third. Now they still say that it's like kind of a different process, all of that, but they removed the like definitive, hey, this is not for eating disorders. To me, it seems like, I don't know, it just seems like it's not for anyone. It's not taking into account set point, the reality of set point, and that, yeah, you can raise it, and also food reward. But then also, even if you have an eating disorder, it seems like it's going to be a very different process for you. And you're probably going to need professional help as well. You can't just pick up that book and like, oh, you're going to be cured. I mean, maybe, but even they're like, you need a therapist and a dietitian and like people, a whole team to help you with this. They're not recommending someone with bulimia just go pick up intuitive eating. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just feel like, who is this book for exactly? Who is this program for? And then the other thing, some people saying that I didn't acknowledge that it worked for people. I definitely did. I said at the very beginning that I'm sure it works for people, just like any diet can work for some people. I know it's a long video and you can just not hear certain things. I get it. I do that all the time with, watching stuff. So, yeah, but I definitely did acknowledge that I'm sure it works for some people. My issue is just promoting this as like for everybody, because doing that with any sort of diet is crap. Don't do it. I know it's not a diet, but you know what I mean. And then a lot of the comments, it kind of sucks because a lot of the comments agreeing with me, they're not really understanding the program at all. It's like the typical response to intuitive eating, which is not correct. I tried not to include any super, super crazy stuff that intuitive eaters say, and I tried to really do my best to present the program, as well as I could. And yeah, but a lot of the comments are kind of your typical response to intuitive eating that people have if they don't actually know the program. So yeah, I mean, that's just inevitable, I guess.